Hey guys, all right, so last week I talked to you about the bucket system and this idea of creating like 7 buckets to help kind of focus your life, and the idea is we don't let any of the buckets run dry. And this week what I want to do is talk a bit about how to not necessarily multitask, but how to kind of fit it in regards to books and podcasts. And so what I would encourage you to do is today to make a list of your 7 buckets and then the resources you have available to you that are audio. You can do print books too, but I want you to focus on audio, and I'm going to explain why. So for God, do you have, my go-to is Sensus Fidelium or the SSPX Sermons, or their podcast, or I have a audiobook on like St. Francis de Sales and like a Catholic collection, and I think I have Story of the Soul and some other ones. And so those would be kind of my audio go-to if it was a day that I wanted to work on God. And then for self-care, I might have like IF stories. I really like that. Or I might have a novel. So like right now I just started Robinson Crusoe. I just finished Vanity Fair, which was so good. Not my favorite, but good. I think The Great Gatsby is definitely one of my favorites. But but I wanted to read Robinson Crusoe, so I'm doing that on audio. That'd be like self-care. Or if there was like an interest I had, like I was wanting to, right now I'm doing some fertility charting and like with a temperature, and so with temping, and so I've been like kind of watching some videos just to make sure. I mean I've done this so many times in my life that I know how to do it, but it's kind of fun to listen to stories and hear about temping again and just kind of get back my headspace. But if there's some kind of interest I want, like rabbit hole I wanted to go down, that would be like I would have books or podcasts available for that. And then with marriage, I do like the Empowered Wife podcast or a Coach Carol video, or because I'm one of the Coach Carol like VIPs, for it's only $47 a month, then I get access to all of her back group calls. And so sometimes I put one of those on and get some like coaching through, because when you listen to a coaching call with Coach Carol, there's always something you can take away from it, just like when we do spiritual reading and like God speaks to us specifically. Marriage would also be like if there was another marriage book I wanted to listen to, even though right now I'm really kind of keeping myself in the Empowered Wife arena, so I probably wouldn't have any other books on tap right then. So that would probably be Empowered Wife, like I said, that podcast or Coach Carol material. With kids, I'm listening to the Parenting Map still, which is amazing. I would probably always have some kind of parenting podcast, or even like a podcast that supports just like gentle parenting, positive parenting. I'm waiting for Parenting with Grace by the Popshacks to be available in audio. I don't think it is yet. But even like the society, the SSPX have put out like through Angelus Press conferences on parenting. Father Ripper has video, or Sensus Fidelium has parenting videos. So something along those lines. And then let's see, what are my other buckets? Homeschooling. I like listening to, obviously the CMEC has materials on their website that I like to listen to, which like I need to do those first. But I also really like to sit down and treat those more like a workshop where I take notes and I participate. So that wouldn't be really ideal for what I'm talking about right now. But like a Delectable Education, Simply Charlotte Mason, the Mason Jar, any of those podcasts that kind of affirm my philosophy of education, which is Charlotte Mason, or listening to a Charlotte Mason audiobook, like I'm listening to Ourselves right now, or trying to get some of my pre-reading done with audiobooks for whatever I can, which is not much, but there's a couple of the books on audio on LibriVox that I can listen to. And then with homemaking, I could listen to the FlyLady. I can listen to one of Dana K. White's books, which if you haven't listened to, A Slob Comes Clean, and her material, like her books are amazing. The Container System, the Visibility Rule, like I just love her stuff. I also really like FlyLady. I'm thinking about resubscribing to Kat, Better Life with Kat, her FlyLady VIP content and Patreon. It was $5 a month. I don't know what it is now, and you get all of her back videos in Patreon, and they're short, but you can just kind of like run them, and those are really, really motivating as well. or even like listening to an OptimalWorks podcast to allow for, you know, a kind of a deeper dive. Even like something like regarding anxiety or like some other kind of like mental health thing could fall into self-care or even homemaking, because I think that those two are really tight, at least for me. And then with meal planning, for meal planning, I don't think I really have an audio. I mean, I have a group on Marco Polo that I go into, but I would have to think about like, maybe I need to find a cooking show that that I could just like listen to, or like a cooking podcast that would just kind of inspire me to be in the kitchen and maybe learn a new recipe, or just inspire me towards like health. I mean, that would be like where I maybe would fit in like an IF Stories podcast, or you know, if you haven't listened to Jen Stevens' book, Fast, Feast, Repeat, or Fasting Like a Girl, Dr. Mindy's podcast would fit in there. Those are more about fasting than feasting, but they do talk about food as well on those, and they inspire like both sides of the coin. You know, it's not just about fasting and abstinence. It's also about what to eat when you break your fast and all the yummy food that is available to us, all the food God gave us. So those are kind of like all the things I listen to, and having like really having a list available, and even creating like maybe a note on your phone, so that when you are doing like mindless work, whether it's you're doing some cleaning, you're doing some decluttering, you're putting on your hair and makeup, you're going for a walk, you don't have to multitask at all. Like, stay in the present moment if that's what you want to do. But for me and my brain, I really like the extra stimuli, even if I'm cross-stitching and doing some self-care, like by sitting, doing some kind of handiwork or cooking. I really like to have these different things on in my ears. And not all day, of course, not like constantly, because again, you don't want to be like unavailable to your family. But what I'm going to talk about in the next video, or whatever, whenever I next touch this bucket system topic, is the idea of having one focus, like touching these buckets every day, which does not have to include an audio, but also having a focus day. And so Mondays for me is my homemaking day. So maybe that would be a day where I would listen to a cat video or a FlyLady video or a Dana K. White book while I'm doing my weekly home blessing hour, or while I'm cleaning the kitchen, in order to kind of support that bucket. And then, you know, Tuesday on the FlyLady system is a self-care day. So maybe that would be the day I listen to The Anxiety Trap, or I listen to an OptimalWorks podcast, or I listen to, you know, my novel, or I listen to something that is inspiring to me and just interesting, and so on. And so I will definitely link all the books and resources that I talked about here, which is going to be a bit of work. But I would love to hear in the comments, like how you're supporting each bucket. And if audio, like if you're like kind of not being thoughtful about what you're putting in your ears throughout the day and the stories you're listening to, I'd really encourage you to be more mindful of, you know, if you're binging, like for example, like when I was really deep diving into fasting, I would binge IF Stories by Jen Stevens, and then I would binge Dr. Mindy when I found her, but yet I still need a homeschool prep. I still need to be in my marriage. I still, you know what I mean? So having these different resources are like, okay, I've given, you know, an hour to Jen Stevens. Now let's put an audio in about homeschooling, or let's put an audio in about marriage, or let's, you know, move the needle, fill the bucket in my soul of these other areas. So anyway, that is my next step for you, is to find some audio for each of your buckets and share below. Okay, bye guys, Pax Christi.